The Misappropriation of Culture and Distortion of Negro American Ancestral Identity. The Negro Institution of Delineationology and Investigation has a #Nightwatch report specifically about pretending Negroians and their impact on the Negro American origin story, reparations, and delineation. This information video is created and presented by Roland Dunham II with master's degree in investigations. A special shout out to Honan TikTok space that rekindled the debate that Indians are not Negroes. The concept of Negro envy syndrome, better known as #NES, was developed to describe the mental behavior of the groups of non-white people in the system of white supremacy. #NES is defined as the following: a mental health syndrome that is expressed by melanated immigrants and others going through an identity mental health crisis rooted in envy, jealousy, and hatred of the American Negro and lineage. In the book Delineationology, the science of delineation for the Negro American highlights the melanated groups and some others. What was not focused on were the roles that Native Americans, Black Indigenous, Freedmen, and Black Indians have against Negro Black Americans to break and shatter the myth that Natives and Negroes are the same people under the guise of flat blackness domestically. It is expressed from the perspective of reclassification and reconstruction of our lineal historical harms are one and the same, which is a logical fallacy. You cannot be both the slave and the master but the collaborators and active participants in the system of white supremacy. Some if not most groups engage in slave catching and being slave masters of the descendants of Negro Americans. This is how we are not the same people in the system of white supremacy and dominance. Pretending Negroians is an indigenous/Native American practice that consists of the following: cosplaying Negroes/Black Americans with the intentions of committing and or engaging in ethnicity fraud through reclassification, including race shifting based on proximity to blackness, reparations/justice interference of Negroes/Black Americans in order to counterfeit reparations claims. These modern-day false claims of counterfeiting identity of being a Negro/Black American by simulating into Black American culture, with the intentions of misrepresenting the authenticity of Negro/Black Americans, accomplishments, birthrights, heritage, history, and lineage, with the intention/purpose of representing, speaking for the Negro American communities from which they do not originate, from which are slave ships and Negro land, while trying to recover lands from broken treaties and failed promises from the federal U.S. government. This behavior is an extension to the psychoethnic/racial sickness, biethnic and biracial disorder under #NES. Negro envy syndrome is a mental disorder under the #NES model. That is a concept that can refer to both the pathological effects of racism on individuals and the view of racism itself as a psychological illness. This mental disorder is rooted in psychological distress, racial/ethnic trauma, internalized ethnic bigotry/racism, self-hatred, and psychosis risk. The concept is rooted in the book by the NOI called How White Folks Got So Rich: The Untold Story of American White Supremacy in the Race Manufacturing section. In conclusion, I have some questions that were modified from that space. Is there a pretending Negroians identity crisis? 1. To what extent are so-called pretending Negroians appropriating or redefining the cultural identity of Negro, Black Americans? 2. How can one assert a Negro, Black American identity while simultaneously rejecting Negro ancestry, which forms the historical and genealogical basis of blackness in America? 3. If claims of racial reclassification are valid, why not establish a distinct identity rather than subsume the Negro American one? 4. What social or ideological factors drive the emergence of anti-Negro/Black Americanists within the movement? These are some of the reasonable questions a Negro descendant should ask when faced with intellectual dishonesty rooted in anti-blackness, colorism, and Negrophobia.
Authentically a real Negro established in 2025 in the United States of America, Delaware. Created by K.A. Designed by R.D.
Copyright. All rights are reserved to Delineationology and the Negro Institution of Delineationology and Investigation.